We are live. We are live. Welcome to College Football's Peek Around the Corner with your host, Greg Pflugar. Come on in. Come on into the chat room. If you love college football, please subscribe to our ever-growing channel. If you like our content, please smash the like button. Share the video with your family and friends. Holy smokes, emergency live show. Some more information has dropped on the Michigan scandal. The dots are being connected. This is an important one. This isn't one of the big ones that I think are coming up next, but this is an important one. And more of this is a coming. And I'm going to have a little bit of news. I can give you a peek around the curtain on what people are really looking at right now, tonight, tomorrow, Sunday, Monday, in regards to the sort. But tonight, ESPN, breaking news, Dan Murphy, Connor Stalions, the Michigan staffer, hiring at least one person. At least one. It's going to be more than that. But at least one person has come out and said, yeah, I got some money. I got some money to film a Michigan opponent, a future Michigan opponent. Money exchanging hands from Connor Stalions to somebody to do in-person scouting. To use electronic device, an iPhone, to record. That's double the pleasure, double the fun, double the punishment eventually, because it's a separate, prohibited, illegal move according to the NCAA rules, one is in-person scouting. You can't even do that. You can't go in-person scouting, take notes, and then when you use a digital device to record your future opponents, them putting up their hand signals, this is looking worse by the hour for Michigan. And then we're going to get into the breaking story. And then that same person said, yeah. And then I downloaded that, my film into an iPhone album. Yeah. All the dots are being connected here. All the dots are being connected. Later in the show, I'm going to tell you what people are really focusing on right now. Reporters are focusing on something right now. And I'm going to tell you what that is in a little bit. And I know there's questions. Greg, we are tired of this story. We are growing weary of this story. I get it. I am too, to be honest. I talked about the Washington State, Oregon State, and the Pac-12, Pac-10 versus Pac-2. What does the Pac-10 really want? I put an episode out there this afternoon. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. Episode 319. John Wilner, mailbag. He does a wonderful job answering questions. Can't wait for this Saturday of football tomorrow. Tomorrow night, I'm going to be coming on live, talking about all the games that happened throughout the day, and we're going to be watching all types of games together tomorrow night. But this story is absolutely huge. It's going to be one of those stories that's going to stay with us for years to come. And peek around the corner, college football peek around the corner, we have to cover this story. We have no choice but to cover this story. This story has ripple effects that we don't even know what's going to happen next. People got tired of me when I kept pounding the pavement on USC, called the Big Ten. I went day in, day out, day in for 3 months. I knew I had this story. People were getting tired of me. People were saying some nasty stuff about me on the message boards. And then June 30th, 2022 happened. And people got tired of me. I kept talking about Colorado being at the center of the stage and the hot bubble action. People got tired of me. And then July 27th, 2023 happened. And people got tired of me saying, Oregon, Washington, it's going to happen within the next 5 months. And if it doesn't, it's going to happen 5 years from now to the Big Ten. People got tired of me. Even Oregon Ducks and Washington Husky fans got tired of me. But then it happened on August 4th, 2023. Ladies and gentlemen, I understand you are tired of me. Tired of me talking about this story, but this is what I have to do. This is what I do. This show is not for everybody. If this was about Minnesota in-person scouting, I would be doing the same thing. I would be even a little bit more angry. I would be angry at the University of Minnesota, whoever let this happen. This is what I do. We connect, I report on other people's stories, and I go about my business connecting the dots, and I look around the curtain, and I can give you a little bit of glimpse of what people are really focusing on, and we're going to do that tonight. I'm going to give you a little bit of a nugget. That's what we do. So, I get it. You're weary, you're tired of this story. Now, later in the show, you can comment about something else. You can comment about anything college football. If you put a donation behind it, I'm going to bring it up and talk about it with you. Or with the phone calls later in the show. The floor will be yours. You don't even have to agree with me on the Michigan story. You can take your own angle on it. It's all, you got it all here at College Football's Peek Around the Corner. As long as you treat each other with respect in the chat, you can disagree. No question about it. This is a breaking story. And it's a little bit of it's just another nail in the coffin. I'm going to be blunt with you. This is just a little bit more. I think most of us know where this is going. And it's not good. Not good. Not good at all. Let's get to it. First of all, I want to thank everybody who's come in early this on the show. This is a emergency live show. We weren't going to do one tonight, but something dropped. ESPN, Dan Murphy. We're going to cover it. Bruce Harris, Boomer. Bruce Harris is in the house. R. Webb is in the house. James Foster, Gold Devils. Lee, hey Greg, you're a busy man these days. Yes, I am. Jim Bagley, good evening. Hey Greg. Hey you, JD Turtle. Nice to see you in the house. Laura Weiss, Texas Tech Red Raider is in the house. Could gambling be involved in all this? There is no information that has Connor Stalions connected with any gambling part of this. However, because the circle of this was so big, this was so complex, it had so many people involved, any one of those people who could have said, whoa, this is giving Michigan an advantage over everybody else. Whoa, I'm going to call my bookie. Whoa, Michigan is winning well over 60% of their games against the spread. Therefore, even with the juice, I'm coming out ahead. This is the type of things, this is the type of little bit of info that the gamblers love. If the big money bettors got a hold of this information, they went to town on Michigan. They went to town. And the sports books can only adjust the line so much. Even with the juice, they're not always guaranteed to come out ahead on every single game. If there's so much money being played on one team, you can only adjust the juice in the line so much. It comes in so quick, that money. And sometimes the sports books, if they get all the money on one side, they'll go ahead and do a wager with another sports book just to balance the book somewhat, just to make sure they don't get hard on that particular game, on that particular weekend. But all the sports books saw a whole lot of money being placed on Michigan. A Michigan game has been a loser for Vegas. I think we're going to hear more about that. But is there a direct connection between Connor Stalions and a gambling aspect to it? No, not that I've heard. And I'm not really open to speculating on that other than what I just said. There's a potentiality of that, but no one has gotten to that point, or maybe no one ever will, because maybe there's nothing there. Greg Flugar is a critical college football voice today. Preach. Just calling it like it is. Or calling it like I think it is. And if you disagree with me, you say, Greg, I disagree with you. No problem. AMAC, thanks for coming on in. Ryan Matson, Sky Yuma, a single booster, betting $10,000 a game, but have taken $100,000 off the books from what everyone knows is supposed to be a losing proposition. Daniel Kopcha, part of me thinks this is insane. Can't believe this was happening and no one suspected any foul play, considering how good Harbaugh was in rivalry games in 21 to 23 compared to the rest of the tenure. Well, you know what? People were suspicious, right? I mean, a whole bunch of people tipped off TCU before that game saying Michigan is, their level of being able to steal signals is way higher than everybody else. But they didn't have the proof that Michigan was doing it by in-person scouting, which is illegal. Now they have the proof. They got lots of proof. Okay, let's get to the story. Thanks for y'all coming on in. I'll get to your comments when I can, and we'll get to your phone calls again. If you want me to get to your comment real quick, put up a donation. That's how we keep the lights on. Hit that $sign, put a comment. I'll get to it as quick as I can. Dan Murphy, ESPN, news breaking this evening. Ex-Division III coach says Michigan staffer hired him to record future Big Ten foes. Now, we're going to go through this article, but from Dan Murphy of ESPN, but it's hired. Somebody was hired. Somebody was paid. This gentleman said he was paid. Obviously, we're going to find out probably every single person that did this was paid. Right? We only got proof there's one, but that's enough in regards to you hired somebody to do in-person scouting to spy on a future Michigan opponent using digital technology, your iPhone, and then this person was directed to download it into some iPhone album. We'll get to that in a second. Suspended Michigan football staffer Connor Stalions compensated at least one person for recording future Wolverine opponents with a couple $100 and a ticket to a Michigan home game, according to the person. The man, a former Division III football player and coach, spoke to ESPN on the condition that his name not be published because he was concerned about his privacy. He is the first person who was involved in the alleged cheating scheme to publicly share details about their role. He's the first person involved in the alleged cheating scheme to publicly share details to ESPN. We don't know what the other outlets, what kind of information they have collected thus far. But people are starting to talk. And I think more and more people are going to talk because this involved a lot of people. He said he attended 3 Big Ten games during the past 2 years to record the sidelines of a future Michigan opponent. He said he uploaded the videos he took on his personal cell phone to a shared iPhone photo album, but does not know who else other than Stallions had access to the album. So he is saying that Stallions obviously had access to the album. We know in a previous report that the investigation firm was able to pick up that people who did the filming in stadiums of other future Michigan opponents downloaded into this Michigan computer days after they would film at the game. So, and according to other reports, it wasn't just Stallions who had access to this computer. There were coaches, assistant on the Michigan staff who also had access to this computer, who would see all of this. He said he was wary of Stallions' plan to a degree when he was first approached to tape the games. but felt that if someone from Michigan staff was asking him to do this, that it must fall safely in the gray area of college football's sign stealing rules. And it doesn't. It doesn't fall safely in the gray area. But this gentleman thought maybe, look, a Michigan staff person. Now, I would like to know, we're not going to know now, and we may never know how Connor Stalions and this Division III ex-football coach, how they first connected with each other. I didn't like it, but it's a gray line, he said. You can call me naive, but no one is reading the bylaws. I'm not a contractual lawyer. I just felt like if you're not doing it, you're not trying to get ahead. It is against NCAA rules for staff members of a football program to scout games of future opponents in person. The NCAA football rulebook also prohibits an opposing player, coach, or other team personnel from recording an opponent's signals through audio or video. The NCAA is investigating claims that Michigan used a large networks of individuals to tape games of future opponents. Michigan's coach Jim Harbaugh denied any knowledge of the alleged scheme in a statement last week. A Michigan spokesman added on Friday that due to the ongoing investigation, no one from Michigan will be able to comment beyond what was shared last week. According to LinkedIn page, he was recently deleted. Stallions is a former officer in the Marine Corps. We know all that, right? Michigan suspended Stallions with pay last Friday. And sources told ESPN that the NCAA is seeking his computer as part of their investigation. The source who spoke to ESPN Friday, today, said he attended games at Rutgers and Penn State last season and another game at Penn State last month. I only did a half because it was pouring rain and they were playing UMass. It didn't pay well enough, so I said, yeah, I'm not staying here. He said that before the news of the investigation was made public, Stallions also provided him a ticket to this coming Saturday's game between Indiana and Penn State. More in-person scouting of Penn State. He does not plan to attend. He said at the games he attended, he filmed every drive on the seat in the stands about 15 to 20 rows above field level. He said he tried to film wide enough to include the sideline and the majority of the team's on-field formation so members of the Michigan staff would be able to sync his videos with other film and decode the team's signals. He said he was able to capture enough of the coaches on the sideline that their signals were visible for someone who zoomed in on their recorded video. A lot of people may say you can just rip that from the All 22, a wide shot game film. Well, it's not that easy, he said. This makes it easier to mirror things up and get those tendencies. In fact, it's impossible. The All 22 does not show this. It very rarely shows the sideline, the coaching staff. He said for the 3 games he taped that he received roughly $1,000 to cover his travel expenses and pay for his time. He said Stallions paid him from a personal Venmo account. And that, my friends, is the PATC money shot of this article. Stallions paid him from a personal Venmo account. We'll get back to that later. Stallions purchased tickets to at least 35 games featuring 12 other Big Ten teams and several other potential college football playoff teams during the last 3 years, sources told ESPN earlier this week. The Washington Post reported earlier this week that investigators hired by an unknown source to look into Michigan's operation found evidence that scouting trips were expected to cost more than $15,000 this year. It was going to be much more than $15,000. Stallions, according to the university's website, received an annual salary of $55,000. The source said he has not been yet contacted by any investigators from the NCAA or elsewhere. ESPN contacted several other individuals this week whose names were connected to ticket purchases made by Stallions. One woman based in Jacksonville said she was friends with Stallions from their time together in the military, but hung up abruptly when asked about attending his last year Florida-Georgia game in Jacksonville. And one other former Michigan staff member, Andrew Ballarge, was among the names connected to the tickets purchased by Stallions. One other former Michigan staff member. According to Bartlett's LinkedIn page, he was the head recruiting intern at Michigan in 2021 and worked as a graduate assistant for Akron's football program in 2022. He did not respond to multiple phone calls seeking comment. The source, finally, we're at the end of the article. The source who did speak with ESPN said he was not aware of how many people helped tape the games. He said he assumed someone else was helping to fund the trips, but that he only ever spoke to Stallions. I wasn't doing it for personal gain or hoping to get my foot in the door if Connor becomes a head coach someday, he said. It was just I got to go to some Big Ten games. All right, sweet. And everyone else I felt was doing it for some degree. It's a $1 billion industry. You're going to work in the great areas as best as you can. That's the article. Now, I anticipated some of the comments I'm getting, which is good, which is fine. Emil Robinson, thank you for the super chat. I appreciate your generosity to the show. That's not against the rules. I see some other, thank you so much for your super chat. I appreciate it. There is some other comments in here that basically saying the same thing. The rules do not specifically say in-person scouting is illegal if you have a member of your staff or a scout. There's so much disinformation being thrown around on Twitter. And from, I won't say, but it doesn't say that. It says in-person scouting is prohibited. You don't have to be a scout to do scouting. If you film your future opponent sideline and they download it and it gets to Connor Stalions, who is a staffer on the Michigan team, and they use it, that is so clearly prohibited by the rules. I know what the article said. I'll put it up on the board. It doesn't say any, it says it's illegal for staff members. I'll try to find it here. I know what people are pointing to when it comes to this article and others. It says the NCAA football rulebook also prohibits, it is against NCAA rules for staff members of a football program to scout games for future opponents in person. Now, no question about it. None of these people in the football stands that are doing this are staff members of a football program. The NCAA, but what the article is saying, it's against NCAA rules for staff members to do this. The NCAA football rulebook also prohibits an opposing player, coach, or other team's personnel from recording an opponent's signal through audio video. And that's not what happened here either. So I understand people reading this and saying, there's no rules broken here. But if you actually go to the rule, and I wish I had an image shot of it, I have it on my Twitter account, I can go find it. It's way bigger than that. It's not just designated for staff members of a team to do it. It's in-person scouting, and it doesn't limit it to a staff member. It just doesn't. I've read the rule 1,000 times. I've talked to reporters. I talked to people. The rule doesn't say that. It just doesn't. I'm going to go find it here before this show's over. It's obvious it doesn't. Look, if it was allowed that you could send anybody into the stands and film the other team's sideline and then bring it in for that team to analyze it, everyone would be doing it. This wouldn't have gotten this far. Connor Stalions would not be suspended. It is what Michigan did. What they're alleged to have done is against the rules. I know people are going to keep throwing it up. It isn't, but it just is. I understand this argument as well, and I don't think this. Lee says when he got paid by a Michigan staffer, he became a Michigan staffer. I do think it's important that, okay, so now Connor Stalions has paid somebody to do it, to film it. It came out of his pocket. No question about it. It came out of a pocket other than Connor Stalions. He didn't have this type. Come on. So it was Michigan paying other people. So you can call that, it makes it even more serious. It does. I don't know how else you can. You're getting paid. So what are you then? I'm getting paid to do this work. I'm not an official staff member, but this pushes the envelope even further. And the problem with this story is, the problem with what Michigan did, there's a lot of problems with what they did. There's a lot of problems with Connor Stalions in the way he purchased the tickets, the computer. So many people had the computer access. An investigation firm found it. But he involves so many different people in this. And the reporters, and soon the NCAA, soon the Big Ten, they're going to find it all out. They're going to uncover everything. People are starting now to talk. People are starting to talk. This is one individual. What do you think? You think we're going to go 3 more days and no one else is going to talk about what they did for Connor Stalions in the Michigan football program? In-person scouting is illegal. It just says when every current and former college football coach, they keep saying, if this is true, this is way above, this is way beyond. They have never heard anyone else doing this because they know it gives way too much of a great advantage to the team that's doing it. When you're taking a film off a phone and it gets downloaded into your computer, and now you're analyzing all that video to steal the hand signals, that's in-person scouting. You're using the information that was taken from a game in the stands, video recording, which is illegal. The video recording part of it is illegal. So if I go to a game tomorrow and live stream the signals, I'm a scout. No, it doesn't. Okay, I'll continue. And if I would at McDonald's and pay a contract to build my bathroom, do they do the work for McDonald's? Again, read the rule. I would thank you for the super chat. I appreciate it. I do appreciate it. But read the rule. The rule says in-person scouting. Scouting as a verb, not as a noun. That's one of the many disinformation stuff that's going on all over the place. Scouting. I can scout something and not be an official scout, a licensed scout, whatever that is. The rule wasn't written that only scouts could not do this, but everyone else could. There's no logic to that. In-person scouting. And then it follows up by different section of the rule book. No video, audio of the team's practices or the games. You know, when I go to a Minnesota practice, when I get access to a practice, you know what I can't do? I can't film it with my phone. Can't film it with my phone. I can't film any of it. First of all, I can't film it. And if I did, and if I sent it out someplace, I would lose complete access. You can't be going filming other people's practices. You cannot send people to a spring game and scout the game and film it. So this off the iPhone going into a Michigan computer and them using it to create the placards of the hand signals of the opposing team, and it's all done before the game starts. No, all that is illegal. All that is prohibited, and it's been prohibited since 1994. I do understand why people are fixated on the word scout, because there's been so much thrown out there. Not a scout. None of these people are scouts. It doesn't scout. The rule book doesn't say scout. It does in one section, but it doesn't say but not in the section that Michigan violated. The word scout is in part of the rule, and I should have the image captured, and I don't. The next live show I do, I'm going to pop it up and show it to you. I'll try to find it on my Twitter account, my X account, when we get the phone calls. But people are confusing scouting and scout. I'll get back to comments. Thank you so much for the super chat, Robinson. I appreciate it. Any unconfirmed report on the board that oversees the University of Michigan will have an emergency meeting to discuss the scandals within Michigan State, Michigan. Also said we'll vote on suspensions. I haven't heard any of that. I've heard people are trying to figure out there's a couple things that reporters are trying to figure out. One is who hired the investigation, the investigation firm that came across this information. That might be a tough nut to crack. I mean, that might not come out until this story is all over. Especially if it came from the University of Michigan or the state of Michigan. Maybe we find that out if it was Integrity USA, a firm that's hired by the Big Ten to make sure everything is up and up in regards to fairness and competition because of fairness and wagering and betting. If they were the firm that actually did it, maybe we'll hear about it. But if it's not them, if it came from Michigan or the state of Michigan, we probably won't find out about it until Michigan or the state of Michigan speaks up on this, if it was them who initiated this investigation. But the reporters, that's what they're going for. The other part, and here's the nugget, that the other part of the the story is I don't know why. And if I knew why, I probably couldn't say it anyways, but I don't know why. But there is, the next part of this is, where did Connor Stalions get this money? He did not do all this on his own, obviously. For whatever reason, this is what people are trying to, people behind the curtain is trying to crack. And that, I guess people think that they can find this out. And I'm trying to figure out how they can. You know, but that is what some people that I know, that's what they're working on. Where did Mr. Stallions get the money? Where did it come directly? This is going to sound kind of, an athletic department, athletic departments, they are, especially at the level of the Big Ten, they are very, very stringent on where their money goes to. Okay, let me back this up. Oftentimes, you see an athletic department. I'll just give an example. They made $122,800,000 and 15 cents. $122,800,000 and 15 cents. $122,815. That's how much revenue they made. And then you also see expenses. $122 million, 800,000 and 15 cents. Oftentimes you see the expenses match the revenue. Now for Michigan, I believe they make more revenue than they expend. Probably. Last I looked at a Michigan athletic, some athletic departments make more than they spend, but most of the athletic departments, the numbers are the same. Go take a look. Go Google it, USA Today, look at expenses, look at revenue and expenses. Now, why is that? Because at the end of the day, whatever money athletic department makes, whatever they make, and all their expenses for all their operation expenses, finance, the money that they have to use on to spend on their debts. Let's say you have let's say you made $3 million more in revenue than you have expenses. You take that $3 million of surplus, most of the time, most athletic departments, and you put it down and you pay off your debt a little bit quicker. Your financing of your debt for whatever it is, your stadium, your athletic village, whatever you've built over the years, whatever debt you've incurred, you pay down that debt a little bit faster. Every athletic department basically has the same philosophy. If I've got anything left in the till, I'm going to expend it all this year to get down, to help the financing of that debt so we can pay it off earlier, whatever. Change our interest rate on the debt, whatever. Change the bond on the debt, whatever. So what I'm saying is athletic departments know where every dollar is. It's not like the U.S. national government. Every single dollar they have projected, it's one of these things, right? They project their budgets years out, and they're keeping an eye on it. How much money's coming in? Our tickets down? Our t-shirts, our merchandise sale down? Our sponsorship revenue down? I know this because B. Tim and Associates, this is how it works in the athletic department. So what I'm saying is, even the small number of 15,000, 20,000, 25,000, that's probably not coming from the athletic department. Whatever it is that budget this in-person scheme, I don't think it's coming out of the football program revenue budget. Because the athletic director would know. The accounting would know. So it's coming from somewhere else. I don't know where, but that's what people are going to try to find out and are a little bit optimistic that they think they're going to find it out. Okay, let me get to your comments real quick here. We'll get to your phone calls in a little bit. Stallions paid these proxy scouts, and then he submitted expense reports to Michigan, who then reimbursed him. I thank you for the comment, AMAC. I find it very, very unlikely. Now, if I'm wrong, AMAC, you can come back at me, and I'm going to take the big fat L. I find it very unlikely we're going to see an expense report and that Stallions is going to get paid, where he files an expense report and he gets the money back from the athletic department of Michigan. I would be shocked. I'd be blown away. I mean, my goodness, this is why Stallions are paying the scouts with his Venmo. That came out tonight in the ESPN report. And was he getting paid by Venmo? We've seen a lot of payments with Venmo to Connor Stalions. Not most people thought maybe, he's a Marine, ex-Marine, t-shirt sales, whatever. But is this the way that he got paid for what he was doing? I don't know. I mean, I that's high speculation. I wouldn't think so. But according to the breaking news report from ESPN tonight, the ex-Division III football player, football coach, that's how he got paid by Connor Stalions to go film a football game, Michigan's future opponent. He got paid by Venmo. And it just doesn't match up with Connor Stalions. In my opinion, being able to file an expense report to Michigan and they bring him back the money that he's paid on all this. I think how he got paid is something a little bit more, well, a little bit more of this. Little bit more. A little bit more of that, I think. Well, they're more difficult to trace. They're more difficult to trace. You just... They're more difficult to trace. But once you find out that people are using the Venmo back and forth, then it's not more difficult to trace. It's a rock. Once it's uncovered, then people can do it. Okay, let's get back to your comments. We're going to open up the phone lines here in a little bit. Antoine Johnson, what? Michigan is the only bad guy? Georgia, Alabama, Ohio State. You all have sinned, you damn hypocrites. No, Michigan is not the only one who has sinned. If information comes before the college football world and before peek around the corner that has Alabama doing the same thing, Georgia doing the same thing, Ohio State doing the same thing, I'm going to be covering that story as much as I'm covering the Michigan story. Nick Saban just came out and said, if this is true, a big punishment should happen. I'm going to shoot it to you straight, Mr. Johnson. Schools don't do this. Teams do not do this. If there's somebody out there other than Michigan doing this, hopefully we will hear about it. And hopefully that school gets punished as well. But this is not something schools have been doing. Why? Because it gives the school a big advantage in competitive games. If TCU would not have been tipped off by numerous Big Ten schools and other schools that Michigan had an extremely high level ability to steal signs, TCU would have lost that game. TCU would have lost that game. So, again, if somebody else, he was reimbursed somehow, no question about it. He did not fund all this on his own. I absolutely agree with you. Does every team cheat in some way? Probably, but sorry, they're not all this stupid about it. And for a place like Michigan that thinks they're the Harvard of the Big Ten, it's embarrassing. Well, Michigan is a great school, unbelievable school. Not just research, academics, athletic programs, big-time brand. They're a great school. And Michigan's going to be Michigan again. They're going to be great again, no question about it. Are teams cheating in some way? Well, let's, again, this is a sportsmanship-like, this falls under the sportsmanship policy of Tony Petitti. Tony Petitti, the Big Ten commissioner, he can rule on something, he can rule on the punishment, and his hands are tied when it comes to this. He can do a $10,000 fine, he can do a couple years suspension, and if he wants more, he has to get the vote on 99% of the things that come across his table. But the Big Ten commissioner, Tony Petitti, when it comes to sportsmanship policy, when it comes, and I was told these exact words, when it comes to integrity of competition issues, then he has free reign of punishment, the timing of the punishment, and there is no appeal process on his final decision. This is not a civil court. This is not a criminal court. This is the Big Ten commissioner. Just to keep that in mind as well. I got it. Hold on. You could give Grinch the exact play that every team is running, and we still won't stop it, so I know my Trojans are in the clear. Well, I can tell you this. I know the Minnesota Golden Gophers special teams hasn't been doing any in-person scouting for the last 7 years. I tell you that. What a train wreck that has been for 7 years. No, we're not doing in-person scouting. And if we are, jeez, who's ever doing the filming is absolutely incompetent. Again, you know, you hear the old saying, if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. But you know, when you do that and you get caught, now you got to pay the piper. And that's the question. What's the punishment going to be? I have no idea. This is unprecedented. We are uncharted waters. What is the punishment and the timing of the punishment? And the timing of the punishment is probably more important than the punishment itself. In other words, is there going to be punishment this year? Can the Big Ten afford to have Michigan represent the conference in the college football playoffs? Can that happen? Remember this thing that has happened. This in-person scheming has gone over the shores. The ways of it have gone over the shores of the Big Ten and it's gone into SEC country. It got into Oregon. Michigan has done in-person scouting on other teams besides future Big Ten foes. They have done in-person scouting when it comes to potential college football playoff foes. So the Big Ten has to act in a way that protects themselves as well. I have no idea what the punishment's going to be. But I will tell you this. The story that broke tonight, we got new people coming on in here. An ex-Division III coach says Michigan Stafford hired him to record future Big Ten foes. This thing got so big. This scheme got so big. So many people. And now they're starting to talk. A former Division III football player and coach, spoke to ESPN on the condition that his name not be published because he was concerned about his privacy. He is the first person that ESPN knows. He is the first person who was involved in the alleged cheating scheme that publicly shared details about his role. He said he attended 3 Big Ten games. He said he uploaded the videos he took on his personal cell phone to a shared iPhone photo album, but does not know who else other than Stallions had access to the album. Again, I went through it earlier in our live show tonight. There is a link in the description box if you want to read the whole article. That's the breaking news. The breaking news is we have confirmation from a gentleman. He got paid a couple $100, and he got paid through his from Mr. Stallion's Venmo account. And again, if I'm Connor Stalions and I'm expected to be paid back for my expenses to do an expense report at the University of Michigan Athletic Department, I probably wouldn't be doing, I would not be using my Venmo account. He was getting paid back in some other fashion, in some other way, maybe through his Venmo account. I know people took screenshots and they have information on that. I don't want to go too far down that road. We have confirmation that he paid out using his Venmo account. Did he get paid in using his Venmo account? I can see why people believe that. But again, we don't really have any confirmation of it. I'm going to open up the phone lines right now. Again, breaking news tonight. Breaking news tonight. A person has come forward to Dan Murphy of ESPN. Excellent reporting by Dan Murphy of ESPN. A former Division III player and football coach said he got paid a couple $100. He did a couple games. One of the games he left at halftime. It was pouring rain. He said, I'm out of here. I'm not getting paid enough money to do this. So give me a call. Talk about this issue. Does this story, breaking news, is that another nail in the coffin of the? Is that get this story more forward in the sense of Michigan? It's another dot that got connected. Another dot of information that got connected. The one, and again, there's been a couple holes in the story that have yet to be filled. Who is the investigation firm that came upon this information on the computer? Who hired them? How did they get access? And the one that I know that has been that people are working on behind the scenes, I've been told, is how did Connor Stalions get paid for this endeavor? There's a belief that it did not come out of the University of Michigan Athletic Department. That it wasn't like an expense report. There's not going to be a paper trail in that regard. Hi, Greg. I'm in Madison to see my Buckeyes lay smack down on those Rudy Poo Badgers, those evil Badgers. Do me a favor, son of Sarek. Beat the evil Badgers. Now, it might seem like I'm a friend of the Buckeyes because I've been doing this reporting about the Michigan issues. But I'm no friend, son of Sarek. I'm no friend of the Buckeyes, especially when you're going to kill us just as bad as Michigan killed us early in the year. Because you guys play us the second to the last week of the season. I'm no friend of the Buckeyes. But the Buckeyes against the Badgers, I got you, man. I'm on your side on that game. Please, you got to beat them. You've got to beat them. South Carolina Gamecocks, I know there's been stories out there. I have poked and prodded. There is stories out there that I'm staying away from. I've checked it out, and people are either telling me, don't go there, Greg, or there's nothing there, Greg. The South Carolina-Tennessee story, you can go ahead and speculate in the comment section with the phone call. You can talk about it. But in my monologue, I'm not going there because I question it. I question that storyline, that Michigan actually helped South Carolina to defeat Tennessee. I'm not a believer in that story. I can get my mind changed, but I'm not going to spend any time with my monologues on that. I watched Northwestern in the rain last year. It was rough. Yeah. When you get up to 55 years old, like I am, watching the game in the rain, holy smokes. It's tough. It's tough on the fat guy from Minnesota. Let's put it that way. Glenn Mason connection. You're a friend. Admit it. I'm not sure what that means, Bob. Reality. Explain it to me.
Call from
JD.
JD is on the line. The floor is yours. Breaking news tonight. ESPN.
Yes, sir. I wasn't going to call tonight. I think sometimes I called too much, but this story fascinates me.
There's no such thing as calling too much. The line is always available to you, JD.
Well, I appreciate it. I'm going to make some assumptions because we got dotted lines and strings going, and they're all starting to go in the same directions now.
Yeah.
So what I'm about to say, obviously, you can put out whatever disclaimer because I give you credit. You're very careful not to make insinuations and say names because, I mean, you're a growing channel, and I think, you're respected in your field.
Yeah.
And you're becoming, as time goes by, you're becoming more notable, and I understand it's very important to you to protect your reputation, and I appreciate that. So what's coming next is I'm making the assumptions. Now, it's pretty clear to me boosters were funding this. There's probably a point person above Stallions. And is it Stallions or Scallions? Stallions? Stallions, okay.
Stallions.
Whether it's Harbaugh's son, whoever. So it's got to be coming from the boosters, funneled into another coach or somebody else is a point person, and they're funneling the money directly to him, and then it's being dispersed. It's like you've been tiptoeing around it on purpose tonight, that it's not coming from the university, but it's coming through someone associated with the university.
And there's layers between that person and Connor Stalions. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's coming from boosters.
Yeah.
So there's some high-level boosters that were helping to arrange all of this. Heck, maybe they're the ones who put a lot of those people together in the first place. But you did a great job earlier talking about. Well, let me back up here, and I'm sorry, my mind's going 5,000 different directions. If the university wasn't directly funding this, the fact that they were using the information, they're still just as guilty, correct?
Yeah, of course. Yes.
Okay, I'm just trying to establish some things.
Yeah.
So we understand that they knew they were using it, and you're establishing all these, these little benchmarks here and so on. At what point does the university have to get out in front of this? I mean, I don't know any of the names in the administration. Are they usually pretty stand-up people? I mean, do you know of people at the University of Michigan? I mean, are they a little sketchy? Are they pretty stand-up? I mean, I don't know.
I'm going to get blasted by people when I say this, but Michigan, I'm going to get blasted. But go ahead, Buckeye fans and everybody else in the chat. Michigan runs a real tight ship. They're not... when it... Yes, it kind of sounds silly for me to say they're upstanding when this is going on, but I think they're taking this very seriously, Michigan. No question about it. In fact, I think there's a now I can't confirm this. I'm not reporting it, but I think it's okay to speculate on this. I think there's a decent chance that either the state of Michigan or the University of Michigan started the investigation of something going on. That is, I think that's a potential scenario that's playing out.
Well, that's good to hear because you would hope that they would be self-policing, and when they hear of something like this or they get some proof of it, just by suspending the coach, it's almost like a semi-admission of guilt. You know, I know a suspension is not an admission of guilt because it's it's an investigation, but obviously they saw that it was serious enough. That's what I don't know is that are all the rats scurrying, and they're starting to turn on each other from this guy, talking to ESPN in this story tonight, or are they just going to huddle up and pull the Bill Clinton defense, deny, no matter what evidence they have, just deny. And it's just fascinating because I don't know all the power players.
I think it's too early to tell, and I would not take Michigan's silence at this point to mean that they are circling the wagons around Jim Harbaugh and the program. I would not. I think that would be a speculation that's way a little bit too far out. I think so far it's appropriate that they haven't said anything. I think once we get past this weekend, in the next weekend, and the athletic director hasn't said a word yet, or the president, then I think maybe that might come into play a little bit, at least in my mind. But for right now, I don't see the silence being anything unusual at this point.
I don't know the equivalent of their board of trustees. I don't know how their governing body works, but I can't help but think that a few of them would almost hope that they lose a game so that they don't go to the Big Ten championship game. They don't have the opportunity to go to the playoff. That way this thing can be dealt with down the road rather than having to be dealt with now. Because I just can't see, just the integrity of the issue. I just can't see them letting this go on and not be addressed beforehand. And I think it was, I heard somewhere, and I can't remember where I heard it, where they said it's not out of the question that the college football community might handle it themselves if the NCAA or the Big Ten doesn't. They just might choose not to put them in the playoff.
Yeah,
and
it'll be interesting to see what happened Tuesday night. If Michigan still is in that number 2 spot, or if a couple voters kind of walk away from them, we might get a clue this Tuesday, or it might be a little too early yet.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. And I'm going to wind this down here, but in this whole scenario, are there any crimes committed? I mean, is there any incentive for somebody to offer up information? Because, that's what I don't know. I know hacking, potentially the old OC hacking into Ohio State's computer. That's a crime. But allegedly, if it happened.
Yeah, that's another story that I haven't spent any time on because the people I've talked to don't have any info on it. Like, there's nothing there yet. But I know that, so I haven't gotten into that either. But yeah, that would be a crime. The only crime that possibly has been committed so far that I can see is Connor Stalions with the U.S. Naval Academy, getting the 500 getting data on 500 midshipmen student athletes, their GPA, their scores on the test, and because he was creating some sort of theory, part of his 500, 600 page manifesto, he was creating a theory in which student athletes, if they have a high GPA but lower test scores, that means they're overperforming in the classroom. That means they're going to overperform on the football field or the basketball court or what have you. And when he took that data to make it, he was told by the Naval Academy that you've got to erase it. The next day, the day after he took it, according to reports out there from credible outlets, and obviously he did not erase the data of the 500 student athletes because he formed this theory of his. I don't know, I forget what he called it. So that is something that Connor Stalions could be prosecuted civilly and criminally, and maybe that's a leverage point that can be used to get him to talk. But then again, that would come from the FBI or the federal government or whatever, the federal government, because it's U.S. Navy Academy. And I don't know if that would play a part in this at all. So, but other than that, I don't see any criminal activity.
Well, that's the thing. If they ever want to get all the information, unless they have an avenue to get it on their own, if they don't have leverage against all the players involved, there's going to be a lot of unanswered questions. I mean, because they're just going to dome up. They're not going to say anything. Mm-hmm. I don't know. It's fascinating. I mean, I don't wish it on Michigan. I don't have any love or hate for Michigan, but this is just the tarnish on a university. This is going to last for decades, and it's just not good for college football in general. So I hope it gets resolved quickly. I'd rather, again, if Michigan earned their spot into the college playoff ethically, I don't have any problem them getting in there. If they get in there this year, I mean, it just ruins it for me,
Yeah.
But anyway, I'm rambling here. I appreciate it, sir. Great show again, and I have yet to set up my subscribe on YouTube. I just watch. So I am way behind on my super chats, but they will be coming shortly.
Got it. Yep. Subscribe, baby. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Have a great night.
Thank you. Great phone call by JD, Mr. Seminole. Jim Choi, this isn't going to end up criminally, making too much into this. I agree thus far. There's nothing criminal that I can see other than the Naval Academy, the data. That might turn into something, but that's a little bit separate from all this. So I agree, Jim. Good Lord, the Ohio State-Michigan game is going to be one for the ages. The Michigan-Penn State game is going to have some... Yeah, it is going to be one for the ages. No question. No question. No question. Immaculate. Well, the FBI are involved in a parallel case involving a coach and a computer usage. There is a chance there's some crossover. No coach is... that I disagree with, Jim. There's a lot of coaches that have come out and said, if this is true, this is bad, bad, bad. So no, I that's definitely... there's a lot of coaches that have come out and said, never heard of this. No one's ever done this that I've heard of. And if they're guilty, now no one is coming out and saying Michigan is guilty. None of these coaches. They're saying if someone is guilty of this, that's a big taboo. A lot of coaches have come out. So that I disagree with. Yeah, Bob Stoops was pretty disgusted by it. Again, Bob Stoops, I have what he says right here. I'll read it real quick. Bob Stoops on Michigan. If it's true, oh, absolutely. That's ridiculous. Listen, everyone acts like it happens all the time. No, it doesn't. I've never heard that in all my years of football and everywhere, every team I've ever been on. Sure, do we look across the field? And if you can see it, that's your job to do. If I'm able to just in my plain eye to look over and know what they're doing, I should be doing that. But the video people or to send people to scout and marry up a signal with the play, no, that's terrible. It goes against everything we're about. That's wrong, if it happened. So, there's a lot of coaches that have come out, and more coaches are going to come out, when they get asked. This is a big taboo. Teams don't do this. It's too big of an advantage. Well, there's no coach that's going to come out and say Michigan is guilty of this, Jim. Right? No, they shouldn't. It's not their job, really. Everyone wondering how this is getting funded. Well, gambling money could be part of it. Yeah, it could. It could. But that's what people are trying to find out. That's what people are trying to find out. How did this get funded? And I might be leaning over my ski tips a little bit too much on this, but when I poked and prodded on this, and I started the show talking about, this is the nugget for the show that we had, about how there are people looking behind, there are people digging into how this was funded. There seemed to be some optimism that they're going to be able to figure this out. And I'm like the opposite. I think that would be the hardest thing to figure out. I don't know. I mean, if it's a booster giving money to a person who's giving money to a person who's giving money to Connor Stalions, something like that, I don't know. I don't know. But there seems to be a little bit of optimism. Like this might be the next thing that drops. I don't know. I don't know. Ski around the corner. Yeah. Most coaches got skeletons they don't want to expose. That very well could be true, Jim. Very well. Okay, I'm just going to check something real quick here. There's breaking news on the gentleman, I shouldn't call him gentleman, but the man who seemed to have a mental breakdown in Maine, who shot and killed a whole bunch of people and injured a whole bunch of people in a shooting. He was found dead in a dumpster. He probably took his own life. They finally found him. So, Just to let you know that Robert Card was found deceased. That just happened as we're on the live show. If you've been following that story. AAR, is Michigan Wolverines really worried about Indiana, Purdue, Maryland, and the Golden Gophers? We think not. No, they're not worried about those 4 teams. But that, again, doesn't have anything to do with the scandal either. So, they did not go when Connor Stalions bought a ticket for a person to sit into the stadium to watch the Ohio State Buckeyes against the Minnesota Golden Gophers in the first game, the opening game, Thursday night, Huntington Bank Stadium in 2021. Not just the opener of the Big Ten Conference, the opener for the entire season, week 1. Connor Stalions didn't have that person scout the Minnesota Golden Gophers. He was there to scout the Ohio State Buckeyes. His seat was in row 142, perfect spot to go look across the field at the Buckeyes coaching staff. That is true. Very good point by Bob Dolan. Michigan was more worried about them 2 or 3 years ago. It also matters how you beat people if you want to get to the college football playoffs. That's a good point. It's not just about beating the middling teams of the Big Ten. The bigger you can beat them, the better it helps you, especially going forward here in the expanded playoffs. Okay, well, we're going to close it down tonight. This is going to just a short live show. I think we've been on for an hour and 20 minutes or so. We were on earlier today. We did an episode today. So I think we'll close it down. I thought it was important to do a live show in regards to the breaking story that Connor Stalions did pay somebody a couple $100, bought their tickets, cost over $1,000 of travel tickets, money to the gentleman for this gentleman, an ex-Division III football player and coach, for him to spy, for him to do in-person scouting on a future Michigan opponent. Breaking news by ESPN Dan Murphy. Go to the link in the description below this video. You can read the whole article or go back to my video and watch the start of this live show and we go through the whole article. Breaking news, more and more information coming out. Drip, drip, drip. Again, it doesn't look good for Jim Harbaugh. It doesn't look good for the Michigan Wolverines. The main question still out there is the following. Who hired the investigation firm? Who started the investigation? And who paid Connor Stalions for him to fund this illegal enterprise of in-person scouting? Still more to unfold, still more to uncover. PATC, we're going to be covering this story like we cover every story. Every inch of the way. That's how we do it. That's how we do it. I know we're not for everybody, but that's how we do it here at Peek Around the Corner. When it comes to the Holy Smokes Theater, what's going on in the ACC, what's going on with Oregon State, Washington State versus the Pac-10, we cover that story. When it comes to the NIL, when it comes to players, student athletes becoming possible employees, when it comes to conference races, when it comes to picking our games against the spread, when it comes to rooting against the evil Wisconsin Badgers, that's what we do at Peek Around the Corner. We cover everything in college football because we love everything in college football. So I hope you enjoyed our show tonight. Please, before you leave, subscribe to our ever-growing channel. Smash the like button if you like our content. Share the video with your family and friends. Until next time, from all of us at PATC, to all of you, please, you all take great care of each other. Thank you so very much.